Mother knows best. Chapter 2. SpongeBob ran into Mr. Krabs' office as soon as he got to the Krusty Krab. "Mr. Krabs! Mr. Krabs!" he yelled. Mr. Krabs was counting his money and was so startled that he threw a pile of bills into the air. "You scared my pants off me, SpongeBob!" he said, scooping up the bills. "What's all the ruckus?" "I wanted you to be the first to hear," said SpongeBob, talking so fast he could barely get the words out. "I'm going to be a star! A TV guy offered me my own TV show!" Squidward poked his head into the office to see what all the fuss was about. He snorted. "You? Your own show? Please!" "I know! It's amazing, isn't it?" said SpongeBob. "What's the show about?" asked Squidward. Gee, I'm not sure," said SpongeBob, looking puzzled. Then he grinned. "But I'm sure it's gonna be great!" "I'm proud of you, SpongeBob, me boy," said Mr. Krabs, putting a claw on SpongeBob's shoulder. "You have fun with that show, as long as it happens on your own time." "Oh, yes," said SpongeBob. "I forgot to mention that it looks like I'll have to quit my job, Mr. Krabs. Hosting my own show is a full-time job. But don't worry, even if you don't find someone to replace me right away, everything will be fine. The most important thing is that you have a mother who loves you." "Barnacles, what does my mom have to do with anything?" thundered Mr. Krabs. "You can't quit now, boy. Mother's Day is 2 weeks away, and we're going to be swamped. I'm having a special Mother's Day menu. Same food, double the prices. I need you to work." But SpongeBob was already unclipping his name tag and placing his hat neatly on the desk. "I'm sorry, Mr. Krabs," he said, looking very regretful. "You know I love being a fry cook more than anything in the world, but this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Thanks for everything." And SpongeBob walked out the door. Mr. Krabs was in shock. "Don't worry, Mr. Krabs, he'll be back," said Squidward. "The show is sure to bomb. It's not like he knows how to do anything besides make Krabby Patties. I give him 1 day and he'll be right back at the fry station." Squidward chuckled gleefully at the thought. SpongeBob headed toward the TV studio. "Hey, SpongeBob, where are you going?" asked Patrick. He was standing at the ice cream truck buying a strawberry ice cream cone. "I thought you were on your way to work." "I am on my way to work, Patrick," said SpongeBob. "I have a new job. I'm going to be the star of my own television show." "Can I be on it?" asked Patrick. "First, I have to find out what it's about," said SpongeBob. When SpongeBob arrived at the studio, he was immediately taken to a huge conference room. Sitting around a long table were about 24 serious-looking executives. They stared at SpongeBob. Just as SpongeBob was starting to feel a tiny bit nervous, the man he had met that morning came flying into the room and put his arm around SpongeBob's shoulders. "Here he is, folks! The guy I told you about!" he said to the executives. "These are my disgruntled advertising sponsors," he said to SpongeBob in a low voice. "They're not happy with the host I hired, but don't let them make you nervous." "We have moms who are proud of us, remember?" He winked at SpongeBob. The clock ticked loudly as no one said anything. SpongeBob smiled shyly but didn't dare say a word. Finally, one of the executives spoke. "You think this sponge can host a live show? About cooking, cleaning tips, knitting, quilting, crafting, and childcare? You think that he will be able to give members of our studio audience homespun advice? The last one he hired tripped on her yarn and broke her arm," muttered another executive. "And the one before that couldn't even make toast. She nearly burned the studio to the ground," said a third. "Did we decide we needed a mother to host the show?" asked another. After all, the show is called Mother Knows Best. Sam Sandollar waved his hand as if to dismiss all doubts. He's perfect, he assured them. And I'll tell you why. Although he's not exactly a mother himself, he does have a mother. And she loves him, right, SpongeBob? He said, turning to SpongeBob and patting him on the back. Right, said SpongeBob after he had stopped coughing. Great, then the first show will air tomorrow, said Sam Monroe. There was a good deal of grumbling as the meeting ended. Back home, SpongeBob found Patrick, Squidward, and even Mr. Krabs waiting for him. How did it go? Asked Patrick. Great, said SpongeBob. I'm going to do a show about cooking, cleaning tips, knitting, quilting, crafts, and childcare. And I'm going to give members of the studio audience homespun advice. Snorted Squidward. Did you hear that, Mr. Krabs? SpongeBob is supposed to be an expert at all that stuff. Him? Huh? Squidward stopped laughing. He had just noticed SpongeBob holding a set of knitting needles, which were moving so fast they were a blur. A long wool scarf was growing rapidly beneath his hands. Here, Patrick, said SpongeBob, wrapping the scarf around his friend's neck. I thought I heard you cough a moment ago. This should protect you from drafts and it'll help you feel better. Gee, thanks, SpongeBob, said Patrick, gratefully going over to the mirror to admire his new scarf. Squidward watched amazed as SpongeBob snapped open his sewing machine case, flipped on the machine, and expertly fed thread through the needle. Then the sewing machine began to whir, and in the blink of an eye, a beautiful quilt appeared. Ding! An oven timer had gone off. Squidward and Mr. Krabs watched open-mouthed as SpongeBob hurried over to the oven and pulled out the 3 perfect cake layers. Another perfect cake, said SpongeBob, dusting off his floury hands on his apron. Just like my mother taught me, he added. Squidward and Mr. Krabs were dumbfounded. Well, he certainly doesn't know the first thing about dealing with kids, that's for sure, muttered Squidward to Mr. Krabs. Crash! A baseball suddenly burst through the window, shattering it. The ball rolled up to SpongeBob's feet. SpongeBob picked it up. What are those mischievous rascals up to now? He said, chuckling as he walked over to the front door. Gee, we're so sorry about that, Mr. SpongeBob, said the 2 kids standing on the doorstep with a baseball bat. Oh, don't worry, kids, said SpongeBob, patting them on their heads and handing them back the ball. Kids will be kids, right? Here, have a freshly baked cookie, and then run along home and tell your mother how much you love her. Thanks, Mr. SpongeBob, said one of the kids. You're the best! Squidward looked at Mr. Krabs and shrugged. Huh, who knew? He said. Stay tuned for Chapter 3, coming up soon.